One of our early themes on None of the Above has been becoming active in politics, becoming educated, finding issues that you're passionate about, and then stepping up. Today we're joined by Ralph Vasquez and Sophia Clark, and definitely two people who have stepped up in a big way. And if you remember from the first show, we had Warren Klug. He was a citizen lobbyist, and he was getting involved at the national level. Ralph and Sophia are citizen lobbyists, and they've become involved in a big issue at the local level. It doesn't matter whether you're dealing at the national level or the local level. I think what matters is that you find an issue that you're passionate about, and you get engaged, and you step up, and you say, I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to work with my local officials. I'm going to get things done. Ralph represents the Workers for Justice and Diversity in Basalt, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Sophia is with the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition. And you have both grabbed onto a very important local issue. In fact, I read the paper the other day. You're the #2 issue of the year, according to the newspaper.
Wow.
So maybe after being on my show, you'll be the #1 issue in 2014, right?
Let's hope so, yeah.
Well, hopefully be the #1 issue that got resolved in 2014, right?
That would be even better.
Yeah, I'll let you guys decide, but why don't one of you enlighten us a little bit on what this issue is and set the framework for where we're going here.
Sure.
You got pointed to, Ralph, so it's up to you.
No option. We got started out of the necessity of having a voice in town.
The town of Basalt, Colorado.
Town of Basalt, yes. Specifically with the relocation of the trailer park community, the Pan and Fork specifically. There have been discussions about this issue for a long, long time, even before the town bought it and the CDC got involved. And after the CDC and the town got together...
Wait, step back a second. CDC?
Community Development Corporation.
Right.
It's a nonprofit that helps people in the lower scale to get affordable housing,
Okay.
among other things. And then we were in discussions, and we got as far as having very specific plans for the relocation of the trailer park community. And all of a sudden, the town deemed that it was unaccomplishable, and they took over. And now they suggested that we just get cash-only assistance, and that's what they offered us. And a lot of the residents took that cash assistance because they were afraid that that was their only option. However, a few of us thought that this was not what it was promised to us, so that we decided to speak out about that, and we formed the Workers for Justice and Diversity.
Right, so you had a situation where in the local community there's some land where you live, this trailer park, and there was other people had a vision for this land. First of all, it's flood control area, right? Because is the Roaring Fork at that point?
Yeah, the Roaring Fork.
And it's in a flood area, and it could be a health hazard.
It's actually a confluence of both rivers.
Confluence of both rivers, yeah. And people had other uses for the land, and someone purchased the land from the town, or the town purchased the land.
The town, along with the CDC, bought the land from Rene Ritchie.
Okay, so they bought the land, and with the intention of making these changes.
Right.
But as part of it, the question became, how are the residents of the park going to be relocated? Where are they going to live? And the original conversations were around what? The new housing was going to be built, correct?
Yeah, new housing, and there were a few different alternatives because not all the people could afford the housing that were offered, and there's different backgrounds as far as monetary help that each person would need. So they had to deal with them in an individual basis, but it was ultimately affordable housing of some sort.
Yeah. So how far back does this start? Take us in. Are we at a year ago at this point? Are we 6 months ago, 8 months ago? Where?
This was about 2 years ago when
2 years ago
they bought the trailer park.
They bought the park in 2011.
Yeah.
So
Okay, but the original conversation was around alternative housing. At some point, the conversation turned to just remuneration, just money.
When the
money
town
assistance.
took over, yes.
So that's what I'm saying. When did that?
That happened
September. Like August or September.
Yeah, last year.
And was it then when you decided you needed to get together and create this voice, or was it?
It was a little bit after that. It was actually around November when we got together, because we were caught by surprise. They were dealing with the people individually, so we didn't have time to really think about what was better for the broader community.
Okay.
So, like I said, a lot of people, felt but that was their only option, so they took it. We thought differently, and it took us a while to figure out, that we've been taken for the ride.
Well, that's an interesting dynamic, and that's one of the things we want to talk about today. So you're living in this community, and everyone is dealing with the issue at the individual level, right? But at some point in time, Ralph, I don't know if it was you or other people, said, wait a minute, we should deal with this issue collectively. So
Yeah.
did you take the lead on that, or how did that come about? How did that start happening?
There's been a core leadership in the trailer park for a long time, and that was ignored by the town, by the way, when they started the process of relocation or eviction. But I can't take all the credit for that.
Well, you're here today. We're giving you all the credit.
Sophia has been a great help, and the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition has been a great help towards us getting together and feeling like we have a voice. Once we did that, we had a lot of partners in the community that were really strongly willing to help us.
So was there one day, was there one magic moment where you're sitting around with a couple of your friends drinking some beer or something, and you say, hey, what the hell? I mean,
something like that.
Something like that.
It took a couple of weeks to accomplish
Yeah.
when we got formed. But
and you reached out to Sophia or someone else in your organization? How did?
we've been involved with CIRC for a while, for at least 5-6 years.
Long time.
With Sophia's predecessor, Brandon. He was really a good person, and he helped us with other trailer park issues and immigration issues. And we were part of the push to get understandable immigration reform.
Okay.
It didn't pan out as well, but we gave it a go. And I've known Sophia. She's part of the community. I used to work for her dad, and yeah, I've known Sophia since she was a little baby.
And I think that's an important word. The word you're using is community.
Yeah.
You are part of the larger community of Basalt, but you have a smaller community that you're working with.
Sure.
And you start to understand that you need a common voice.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's one of the things we want to drill down through here. How did you start collecting your common voice? How did you start organizing? And how did you take it to the next step of really formalizing an organization?
Well, certainly no blueprints to it, or not that we were aware of. We just started meeting, and we kind of put all our ideas in a box, and then started going from there. We knew we had a specific goal, which was to hold the city and the town of Basalt and CDC accountable for their promises or their broken promises, and we went from there. Everything else has been as democratic as can be. Every single member of the Workers for Justice and Diversity of Basalt have the same say of what we do.
Was it
how we
hard?
proceed.
How many members approximately are there?
It's 10 families, give or
Yeah.
take.
Okay.
And there's like 12 core members that come to every meeting.
So what's the rule? Out of let's say there's 12 core members, do all 12 have to agree? 2/3 vote? How do you make decisions?
It's a majority vote
Majority vote. Okay.
for the most part.
Well, we've never had it come up that there's been like a.
Really, yeah, for the most part, agree on what's good for all of us.
Yeah.
But
But that's
ultimately
fascinating in of itself. That you
democratic.
can have 12 people have that kind of unanimity that they
Yeah.
could agree, because a lot of times you'll find that people have an issue, but that issue's fractionalized. Out of the 12, 8 want to go one way and 4 want to go another way. But you've
Yeah.
had that unanimity, and I think that speaks well for your group.
And that has developed over time also. I mean, I feel like at first, obviously, people are facing, I mean, Ralph can speak to this, but like it's a huge risk. People are caught in this situation of what if nothing happens, and then we don't have the monetary assistance. Or we're getting closer and closer to the deadline, and people are really worried about it, but they're still like committing themselves. And every week that passes, I hear more of people saying things like, people are just taking ownership of the group more. And people have been saying like, oh, I can sleep better now because we're supporting each other. And I had someone from the group call me yesterday actually and say that the town had called and made an offer to them, and that they are not willing to take that offer if it's going to compromise the health of the larger community.
Well, that sounds like you really have a good thing going here in the sense of the community and the group. Do you have one person that's a spokesman? Ralph, are you the spokesperson for the group? Do you, when you go to a meeting, are you the leader?
I mean, we all have the same say. You know, they have translators at the meeting, so we all get a chance to speak for the most part. Whenever somebody's reluctant to do so, then I think I take the initiative for the most part.
And I guess I maybe jumped a bit ahead there. So you've realized there's an issue, you've come together with these families in a group, and you've agreed on an approach of where you want to go. What do you do next? Who did you decide to contact? Who was the first person that you alerted and said, we now have formed an official group and we want to work with you? How did you go about communicating
We
that?
took advantage of our relationship with the press. Scott Conham and the Aspen Daily, Steve Harvey.
Nelson Harvey.
Nelson Harvey,
Okay.
sorry.
So you reached out to the press?
Indeed, and they were a great help. That's where we took our manifesto and made,
You have a
it,
manifesto?
made it public.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like
made
that.
it public, and we started from there. You know, the town took notice of it, and it's just been growing beyond our imagination since.
So I think what you've done, again, is very important, and we're going to walk through maybe sequentially how this happens. So you get together a group, agree on something, you have a manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Great word. And then you now communicate through the press. You kind of announce yourselves, I guess, right?
Right.
So how did you get together with the village then? Who called the meeting, and how did you go about making this presentation?
The town called it.
The town called the meeting. Okay, so they reached out to your group, said, we've read about this in the paper now, and we want to work with you.
Yeah, and then it was under different circumstances then, because before that we had meetings with the town, and you know they were really aggressively just saying that we had no option really but to take the money, or you know get evicted, and now the situation's changed where we had a voice, and they knew that they messed up, so and now it was more public, so now we're trying to fix that, so you know now the thematic change in terms of what it was spoken about in these meetings.
Right.
Now it became more of how we can fix this instead of just take the money and go.
And also to add to that, and to add to like who speaks in the group, almost everyone in the group has spoken with the press or has participated in our public events, and I think that that is really key because, like Ralph said, the dynamics between the town and the trailer park were very different before a public campaign was launched, where no one can hide because it's in the media, and it's not just they can't deal with people individually. There's a unified group of people who are all very strong, and that really changed the dynamics.
Did you sense that there was any resentment on the part of the town by virtue of the fact that you announced this through the press as opposed to going to them first? Was there some negativity in that, or did they not react?
I think they were really uncomfortable, to say the least, with our actions. However, they were notified that a lot of us, we had a meeting before in the library, and they were notified that a lot of us were unhappy.
Right.
And a lot of us were wondering what happened to the promises made by the CDC and the town initially, which was to provide the residents of the Pan and Fork with 100% replacement housing.
Right.
And what happened to that? And they just kind of blew it off, so we felt the need to go ahead and make everybody know, at least, they'll feel a little differently, and that was the case, and now we have allies, and now it's not a isolated issue.
Yeah, and let's talk about the ally part here. Because in my previous interview, obviously you haven't seen that interview, but I talked to Warren Klug about this notion of you have to create pressure. If you can't create the pressure, you can't get the result. Now you started creating the pressure by reaching out to the press and announcing a position, hey, we're here, take us seriously kind of thing. But you've gone past that since. You've you've kept up the pressure, you've expanded your coalition of supporters and everything. So can you talk a little bit about how you've done that? And also, I know you've used the internet and some other sources. So tell me how you've kept this pressure up, how you've built your coalition, and how you've used some of the technology and some other things to message.
Well, initially we asked for the help of our first ally meeting was with the school system.
Okay.
And they were really approachable, and it turns out they really wanted to help us, and they actually started a campaign of their own inside the schools, and they were, you know, they were just waiting for someone to kind of lead them in a way to help us, and then the clergy got involved, and they're really specifically one person, Marie Gasol, she's really intense about helping us and getting actually all the clergy together and to help us, which is really amazing. I think Sophia can tell you better about how we use the internet and other.
All right, Sophia, that's your cue. Jump in here now. So what have you done with the internet? Do you have a Facebook page? Do you tweet? What are you doing here?
I mean, really, we haven't used the internet so much, and that's because the people who are impacted are not as much on the internet.
Okay.
So it's not as accessible of a tool necessarily, but the way it did come in handy was after that ally meeting. Sending out, like we have like an email list, and
Okay.
yeah, and we started doing a petition, and we had paper copies and a digital version, and so that petition was shared on Facebook, and shared by, and that really, we got like 200 signatures on Facebook, so that was really helpful, and members of the group who have Facebook and all of our allies and other community groups in the area shared that petition.
Well, again, I think what you're doing here is exactly a textbook. You know, you had the issue, you formed your group, you communicated to the officials, and then you're doing two things. You're continuing to build your coalition, right? And you're continuing to keep the pressure on.
Sure.
So you have a unique issue here in the respect that you've got a real deadline you're facing, correct?
Yes, but I don't think we at this, you know, we shouldn't be shaken by this deadline. I think if there's nothing that palpable that we can rely on from the towns, especially since we've been lied to before, or the residents have been lied to before, then they have another issue, because we're not gonna move. And that's an issue that they need to resolve. We need to resolve to have a place for each individual that lives at the trailer park before they proceed with the removal of the trailers.
Now, you guys just met me today, and you know this, but one of the things I do professionally is I do a lot of lobbying. And one of the things that I believe is important in a campaign is that at some point you have to make sure that what you're asking for can actually be done. You can't ask for something that people can't deliver. So do you think you've set a framework for something that at least can be accomplished?
Absolutely. It's been promised before, so obviously it can be done.
Okay.
And now that, you know, we requested some of the paperwork that was involved in this issue, and they've been reluctant to give it to us, and it's public property, then it shows that they might be hiding something. So, I mean, more than ever, we're proceeding with the way we've been proceeding.
Yeah. Now, obviously,
Yeah,
I don't want you to declare your whole strategy here, but as I think down the road for you, it seems to me at some point there could be some litigation or you know, lawyering involved here. Is that something you're having to be prepared for?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe bringing a lawyer in and defend yourselves in court, or seek injunctive relief or something. I assume that you have to look that far down the road, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think eventually it'll go to that.
Well, let's hope not, but right.
Yeah, we hope not, but we are seeking legal advice, and we're pretty confident that, you know, we're going to get the help that we deserve in this issue.
I'm sorry, please, Sophia.
I just want to add to your question about whether or not something's possible.
Yes.
I think that, well, this is a nice moment to bring up something. January 1st, 2014 was the 20-year anniversary of the Zapatista uprising in Chiapas, Mexico, where indigenous communities have been successfully in rebellion for 20 years and building alternative communities and saying, no, we don't have to follow the laws of the economy or progress. Like, we invented this and another world is possible. And I think that that is really inspiring and is something that we all need to think about because we limit ourselves with, well, it's just not done. Like, development always takes advantage of people, and money rules at the end of the day, and it doesn't have to be that way, and even if it seems far-fetched, it's certainly not impossible.
Well, and I think as long as you have the lines of communications open, and again, as long as you are talking about achievable solution sets, I think you can get a good result there. It sounds like your group has really done a nice job of making sure that you stay like on that even keel in that respect.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've been very blessed. You know, we started feeling that we were just a neglected group of people in town, and now we know. Now we feel more part of the democratic process and Basalt. And I think that alone, it's a win for us, regardless of what happens from here on. We have gotten the attention of people, and we've shown people that things can be accomplished in the democratic sense.
Absolutely. Where does, I don't know this issue well enough to know, where does this decision-making lie? Is there within Basalt, is there a mayor who gets to make this decision, a business manager makes a decision, is there a council that has to make a decision? Ultimately, how would that just play out in their context of government in Basalt?
The thing is, in this case, is the council through Mike Scouten, the town manager, that's ultimately.
So you may need a vote at some point on this?
Yeah.
We might.
Well,
yeah.
they have to, like, vote to approve, I mean,
Any
policy
of
or, yeah, money. Even if they're not as involved in the planning process, they have to approve the policy.
Okay. So again, wearing my lobbyist hat here, I would say the most important thing you always have to be able to do is count your votes. So how many people sit on this council?
8?
8, and you need how
I'm not
many?
sure.
How many votes would you need of the 8?
I'll say 4 plus 1.
You need 5 votes.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
All right. So it sounds like you're doing a great job. But my advice to you is, at the end of the day, you have to, if this does come to a vote, you have to figure out where those 5 votes are coming from. So we talked about this word pressure, and you have your petition, but at some point you'll have to zero in and say, we've got to get 5 votes, and you'll have to direct your energies to figuring out where your 5 votes are going to come from. That's my free advice.
Thank you.
To you guys today. It sounds like you're on the right track. And again, part of this program, the Messages program, is we've got a lot of dysfunction in government. It's not working well. And I think your issue is an outgrowth of what you felt was a significant amount of dysfunction and miscommunication. But you've now stepped up and trying to find ways to solve the problem. And I admire what you're doing, and I congratulate you on really some great efforts here. Thank you for joining us today. Maybe we'll have another segment in April, and we'll talk about this great victory accomplished,
victory,
and
exactly.
follow up and see how you solved the problem and how you avoided dysfunction. That's the goal of what we're talking about here today. So thanks very much, guys.
We'll
I appreciate
put that
it.
in an itinerary for sure.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.